Hello, hello, mic check, 1, 2. Can anyone hear me on this thing here? I don't have the windscreen, unfortunately, to the lavalier microphone, so I'm doing it in this manner. This is Dominic Olivo with your video content, and I just want to share this. I'm going to try not to take up much of your time, but I wanted to share this because, as some of you may or may not be aware, so I've taken some time off of social media for quite some time. If you noticed, I haven't been on Facebook like that. I've been using Instagram for the most part, but I've taken a step back from Facebook. I've had a Facebook account for almost 14 years, and there's a reason why I took a little hiatus off of it. One of the main reasons is because of propaganda. Now, I'll go over a little bit as to what that's about, but before we go any further, I'm just going to give a disclaimer. One of the main reasons why I do my videos in here is because, for the most part, I tend to be an introvert. Every now and then I do get outside and I do hang out with my close family and friends, but for the most part I have a lot of privacy and not many people can hear me. It's very quiet, it's very spaceful, and for the most part, like I said, I tend to be an introvert. You know, as a person like me, I'm cut from a different cloth. I'm not built like all these other guys and ladies out here. I cherish my own privacy. I like my privacy. I like to keep to myself most of the time. Though sometimes I do like to get out, I like to have my own privacy. This is a very sacred place where I can be able to do whatever I want in the space, whether it's producing video content or all the contents that you've seen me do, my step dancing, my quarantine singing vlogs. So for the most part, this is why I do what I do. And I will share this information as well. As most of you know, I do have Asperger's. I've shared this before, and one of the characteristics of having Asperger's is that my attention span is not very long. I have a very short attention span, and I don't like to spend a lot of time reading books. I do skim read through articles. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube. I'm very heavy on YouTube video vlogs. So I've been watching a lot of video vlogs, and I skimmed through and looked up some information. I read a couple of articles online, a few articles I skim read, but I don't like to spend a lot of time reading textbooks, mainly those long, big textbooks, because I don't know exactly what it is. I just feel like it takes a lot of my energy. It takes a lot of my time. And like I said, I don't have a very long attention span, particularly when it comes to reading books. I will say that over the past couple of years, one of the things that I learned is that I feel like I learn best looking at images rather than reading information, because something about reading information, because I have a hard time sometimes comprehending big words, that I like looking at images because I'm better to understand the context of the situation. I understand a couple of things that are being shared on the books or letters or those articles, but I need to have a visualization so I have an idea exactly what I'm looking at. That's just the best way that I learn. And so going off of that, I'm going to go off of a little bit of a tangent, and I'm going to get to the bottom of the subject, because I know that for some of you, you're not going to be intuitive to this video, and I understand that for some of you, this is going to be a very sensitive subject. So I am going to ask that you do bear with me as I try to get my way through this. So over the past couple of weeks, I haven't been really producing any video content, not for monetary purposes. I do a lot of my amateur vlogging, but I haven't really been producing any videos lately. And mainly because of this reason, because I'm surrounded, it seems to me that I've been surrounded by a lot of negative energy, especially some of it at work, some of it out in the public. There's a lot of negative energy. It seems like a lot of people are putting their heads down, and it seems like a lot of people are very upset. I'm not taking away from the fact that there's a lot of issues going on in the world, outside of the world. Again, one of the main reasons why I stepped away from social media for a couple of days, I've taken a little hiatus, is because it seems to me, from a broader scale of things, I feel like there's a lot of propaganda that's being shared that not many people are aware of, and I'm learning for myself too. You know, not everything in the world is crazy. You know, I tend to be a very optimistic person, and not feeding into negative energy. So one of the things is that, you know, I guess you can say that for a while I did kind of isolate myself, but for good reason, because I'm not trying to be around negative energy. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't been, you know, producing video content, is because, again, there's a lot of negative energy. And I think one of the main reasons is that a couple of months back, I shared a previous YouTube vlog in regards to why I don't spend a lot of time reading the news, and I'll get a little bit into that. Now again, a lot of people I feel are going to disagree with this stance, but this is just my insight. This is just how I feel. In the last video vlog that I made back in August, I mentioned that one of the reasons why I don't spend a lot of time watching the news or reading the news is because, one, it takes away from my energy. It consumes my energy. It's very depressing. It takes away from my time. It takes away from my creativity. It makes me feel very sad. There's a lot of heavy information. And I think a lot of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of this is because news media companies, just my stance on this, news media companies, like many other media companies, they're trying to make money and they're doing it off of our misery. So we're basically feeding into negative information. We don't know exactly what's true. We don't know exactly what's false. A lot of us do not use our critical thinking skills, and we don't know that these things are actually taking place. A lot of this is off to feed propaganda, hence the word I mentioned before, propaganda. You know, it's to feed their agenda. I think when it comes to sensitive subjects like politics and news media, it's very sensitive, and I think it's all to fulfill propaganda. That's just how I feel about it. See, this is where I feel that some of this information is going to ruffle some people's feathers, because I'm going to go ahead and state this. In light of the elections, the midterm elections being this year, with the primary ending in June in our state, New York State, and the general elections being held in November, I know that this is a touchy subject that's going to ruffle some people's feathers. I'm just going to go ahead and state this. I think that because so many people spend a lot of time, and it's not just the older folks, it's some of the people in my demo, the 18 to 35 demo, particularly the millennials in the 26 to 41 demo, I feel like some of these people tend to feed into this. When you watch too much of the news media, especially, with the debates, the election debates, I think it makes people feel emotional to the point that they get so angry about the things that are going on that they take their frustrations and they place their beliefs upon other people, their views and ideas, which are irrational. I feel like this is the wrong way to approach that, because we all have our ideas and skills and talents. We all have our perspective beliefs. We all have our ideas, and I think one of the things is that the news is trying to push to get you to think about certain things. I think that the whole purpose of the news is to tell you how you should think and not going with your own gut intuition. Because I think it's very important that you have to go with your own gut intuition. You have to trust about what you know and not listen to what these people on TV are trying to tell you. Now, I, for one, I may not know everything that happens in our history, and I may not know everything that happens in the world today, but we do receive a lot of information. I receive information every day just by looking at the news, and all these highlights that are being shown on social media. I feel like that's where most of the people get their news from, too, is on social media. And that's one of the reasons, again, why I stepped down, because, again, propaganda, it's feeding their agenda, because we're seeing all this negative information. There may be some truth to the things that we see, but not everything that we see is true. A lot of it is to feed their agenda. They're trying to make money. News media companies like CNN and all these other companies, they're trying to make money. I guess you can say in short that I feel like the news is corrupt, because it used to be that 30 some odd years ago, the news was intended to inform us. Now, in this day and age, I feel like the news is intended to tell us how to think and not how to think for ourselves. They're telling us what we should feel. And if you notice, a lot of the news is a lot of negativity. It's not every day that you often hear someone doing so good. They use a lot of negativity. If you notice, it's a lot of negative information. Somebody's getting killed. Somebody got into an accident. There's a flood. There's all these things. There's these natural disasters. Notice that all these things are negative and not positive. Think about that for a moment. So it's no wonder when I walk into town, when I go into work, because you have to understand that I deal with people. I work in retail, so I deal with a lot of different people with all different walks of life. It's no wonder why I see people with their heads down and they're walking around with their angry expressions on their face, stomping up and down and looking at all throughout with their facial expressions. Just overall, their negative energy is getting onto me. I feel like they put that energy onto me because they see someone like me doing so well. They see others doing pretty well. And then when they see that some people are doing pretty well, it's like they feel somewhat jealous about that. But I think all that negative energy and those feelings are part due to people watching the news and feeding off information that's being presented, because these things, again, are designed to tell people how to think and how they should feel. They're not necessarily informing us, hence I use the term the news. The news was supposed to stand for notable events, weather, and sports. These days, I feel like the news is nothing but never-ending worries and sadness. Think about that for a moment. Now I'll go off and say this. I'm not a political person, but that doesn't mean that I don't care about certain issues that are going on around me. There's things that I do care about, but I'm not a very political person. I feel like just from what I've seen over the past couple of months, over these past 12 months, it seems to me, and this is just my opinion, take it how you may, but I feel like there's some tension going on, particularly in between the two parties, the primary parties, Democrats and Republicans. I feel like there's so much tension going on. We're seeing these debates. We're seeing all these things that are going on in the news media. And every 4 years, we have the presidential election. Now, I know this is where people get very tense because every 4 years, we have to choose a new leader. But I just feel like my gut intuition is telling me that something doesn't feel right about that. I'm neither siding for neither. I think, in my opinion, that no president or no candidate is better than the other candidate. They both do the exact same job. And some of these people are there to fulfill their purpose and their own agenda. Most of these people are not looking out for our behalf, if that makes any sense of what I'm trying to say. And now I know, again, this is going to make people feel some type of way, but one of the reasons why I stem back from these type of things is because, again, politics is a very sensitive subject, and I neglect from talking about it. You know, I like to talk about other things. Politics, again, is a very sensitive subject. I just feel like the way politics is being used on today, because people get so irrational. If you get asked a couple of questions and you neither agree nor disagree, then the other person feels some way about what. So in order to explain exactly what I'm talking about, I actually put a little video sample together off of Snapchat in order to illustrate the point that I'm trying to convey. So I hope you will be intuitive to this video segment.
You know what? Red Delicious apples have that nice red, glossy, shiny look to it and that gritty taste. What's your intake about Red Delicious apples?
Well, personally, I prefer oranges because oranges have that tangy taste. They also have that nice shiny orange color to it.
But how could you not like Red Delicious apples?
Whoa, lady, chill. I didn't say anything bad about apples. I'm just telling you that I prefer oranges. I think oranges are really good too. I think all types of fruit are good.
But sir, red apples add more value. They're very gritty, they're very delicious, and they're good for a snack. What's the deal about that?
Whoa, I think we're getting on the wrong note here, lady. I didn't say anything bad about apples in particular. I just prefer oranges. Oranges are my favorite type of fruit because they add a lot of citrus to it. There's nothing wrong with apples, it's just I prefer oranges.
Well, I suppose if you don't like apples of any type, then you must be a really bad person and you hate apples, and I don't want to be friends with you anymore.
See, the whole point is you cannot compare apples to oranges because both of them have one thing in common, and is that they're both fruit. Sure, both of them add different textures, color, taste. They share one particular characteristic in that they both offer essential value. They're both actually good for you, and they're both very healthy. So there's no point in comparing the two fruits and vegetables because they both add value and texture and taste, and they're all healthy. So as you saw in that little video segment, that was an argument between a man or a woman arguing in regards to comparing certain fruits and vegetables, which fruit tastes the best, which fruit looks the best. So as you saw, that was just an illustration, and I used that particular illustration in regards to today's world because we see people getting into a heated argument. Now, I'm not a confrontational person, and I don't deal with conflict very well. I tend to be a very reasonable person. I'm not a very hostile person, but I'm just a guy trying to look for a middle ground. I'm trying to understand what each party feels about a certain situation or a certain subject. I'm just trying to find that middle ground, if that makes sense. I'm trying to come from a place of understanding. I'm not trying to be too judgmental. Now, I was reading something online in regards to voting because, as most of you know, most Americans in our country, particularly men and women who are 18 and over, are encouraged to register to vote. So we go to the polls every year around election day. Sometimes elections are early. We have the primary elections that take place sometimes around May or June. And then you have your general elections, which take place in November. So those people who are 18 are eligible to register to vote. Now, I know that this is somewhat sensitive, and this gets people feeling some type of way, because I feel like these type of platforms are designed to place people in certain categories where you feel like you have to pick a side. And I'm advocating that neither side is right. You know, I'm not saying that Republicans are wrong or Democrats are right and vice versa. I'm saying that there has to be some sort of middle ground, because it seems to me and apparent to me that both of these are these people are backlashing against each other, debating about certain issues, because as you all know, we've experienced world issues. You know, the 9/11 attacks, from the coronavirus pandemic. There's no denying that there are a plethora of issues that are taking place. And I feel like when it comes to these things, you know, we get a lot of brochures in the mail voting for certain candidates that are running for office. And I feel like these people are pushing it. I feel like these people are forcing people to have to pick a side, if that makes sense. I know I seem to be going off of a tangent and jumping all over the place, but I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the situation here. Now, it's my understanding that under the U.S. Constitution, because there are a plethora of different issues that take place from time to time, we are encouraged as Americans to go out and place our vote. But it's also mentioned as well that voting is voluntary. We are not mandated to go out and place our vote. This is all voluntary. So there's no right or wrong way to go about doing things. We are encouraged to go out to vote, and which some people do, but there are others that don't go out to vote. And I think part of it is because there's so much tension going on in between both parties, and just the overall discussion of politics. That's why I stem away from having those kind of discussions, because these discussions, I feel like, when it comes to what I'm saying in general, in regards to watching the news and issues and politics in general, this is all very touchy subjects, and I feel that this leads to people to feeling irrational. It takes away from one's creativity, but not only that, I feel like it can affect certain relationships, friendships, family, all those things. These things can have a lasting effect on that. Now again, I can understand the need to be informed about what is going on around us, but also there's much things bigger in life. I feel like there's so much more to just life than just what's on that television screen. I feel like we should try to take some time off to look at the positive aspects. One of the things that I will say is that I feel like we get irrational when it comes to concluding that because this is going on the television, what they're showing on television is how we project the world to be. Not everything that we see in the world is negative. We don't know, because not all of us travel across the world, so we can't come to that distinct conclusion. Not everything that is going on in that television screen is true. When we see this going on, we conclude that because that accident is taking place on that television screen, we must conclude that the world is a crazy place to live. The world is a bad place to live. And that's not necessarily true, because it's important to note that there are over 7 billion people on this earth, and not every single person is bad. While there's very well bad people, there's also good people in the world. So I just wanted to make that distinction. We can't come to assumption or conclusion that everything that we see on that television screen is true, and that's what's happening in the world. There are good things that are going on in this world. We just haven't found that. We haven't seen it with our own eyes. Before I conclude this video, I'm just going to state this, and I know people are going to feel some type of way about what I say, but I'm just going to go ahead and state this. Unless we take time out of our day and schedule to get to know these people that are actually running for office, unless we take the time to actually see with our own 2 eyes what is actually happening in the world, unless we hop on a plane or hop on a bus and actually see the things that are taking place, instead of watching what's on that television screen and listening to what all these reporters are telling us, we can't come to that conclusion that so-and-so about this person or about this world is bad. We cannot come to that conclusion unless we've taken the time to get to know these people or these supposed candidates that are running for office, and really just the overall things that are being shown on that television screen or that are being shown on the newspapers. I refuse to give these people a moment of my attention. I'm not giving these people a dime. These people are making money off of us because we read those newspapers and we spend hours among hours watching the news and feeding our attention span, that it's taking away from our creativity, it's taking away from our time, and it's also altering the relationships that we have with our friends and family. It's adding tension to that. So I'm just going to go ahead and state that, and nonetheless, I hope you did enjoy this video, and like I said, this video was not intended to ruffle anyone's feathers. This is just my personal standpoint, and part of the reasons why I stem away from social media and why I've been stemming away in general from content creativity and making videos. I'm using a lot of downtime to work on myself. Though I know these things tend to not happen overnight, these things take time. So rest assured you will see more video content, but I'm using a lot of downtime to take a breather away from news media and just continuing doing what I do, even if it's just living a simple life, even being grateful for the little things, being able to get out of bed, cooking breakfast, you know, that sort of thing, being able to maintain my personal space and my mental sanity. That's the overall bigger picture here. So again, I hope you enjoy this video. I'm going to go ahead and conclude, and please be on the lookout for my next video, which will be uploaded in a couple of days, and I'll talk to you soon.